This video is brought to you by Gladiator Concealment and S4 Tactical Gear. Links are in the description box below. What's up, guys? It's Michael and Kyle with AKM Tactical. We appreciate y'all watching. We want to take a few minutes today and talk to y'all about necessary Glock modifications, functional Glock modifications, things that you can do to a Glock, but really any handgun, any defensive handgun. We just really love to say, we just love to use Glocks. That's what we use for our defensive handguns. And
yeah, I mean, this video, guys, is just to for you guys that are maybe new to the gun world, maybe new to Glocks, or maybe you have a Glock, you've had a Glock for a while, and you know, maybe you just run it at bones dry stock, which is a great gun, you know, on its own. But these are just some modifications that are not flashy; they're functional.
Yeah.
These are just stuff that makes your Glock a little, you know, a little more, I guess, gunfighter ready.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, there is things
ready.
here that are cool looking. There's things that we do to them that they really do. They look good. But at the end of the day, they all serve a purpose. There's nothing on my guns that doesn't serve a purpose.
Yeah.
If it's not needed, I don't put it on there. So that's the way I've always looked at it. That's why mine don't look all fancy and razzle dazzle.
So first of all, you know, if you've watched our videos, and I mean, you know, if you've watched our videos, honestly, you probably don't have to sit here and finish watching them, because you know what we're running, you know why we run it, you know our philosophy. But for maybe some of y'all that haven't, or maybe some of y'all that don't know, first things first, on a new Glock, the first thing you're going to want to do to make it more functional is change out those crappy night sights.
Yep.
Now, I would show you some crappy Glock sights, but I don't have any.
I've got some in my closet somewhere.
Well, I meant on a gun.
But yeah, I don't have any on the gun.
Because that's the first thing we do is we change out the sights.
Yeah.
Michael's 26 right here is running big dots, XS big dots, which are great. People will tell you that, oh, you can't hit the broadside of the barn with those things. They're not accurate. Bull crap. You can't shoot.
Yeah, I mean, I always try to look at a set of sights like this. If I can't hit between 25 yards and in, I need to really look at maybe doing something different. And I can hit 25 yards and in with a set of big dots. Now, 50 yards and out, maybe it's a little bit harder than with other stuff, but I'm not gonna be shooting 50 yards and out in a defensive situation. Probably not.
If you do, you might have some explaining to do.
More than likely I won't.
This one is wearing Ameriglow eye dots. You know, that's kind of my staple. Y'all know I like those. This one is my old Glock 23, and it's running Hackathorn sights, which instead of having, the only difference between that and the eye dots is there's no tritium vial in the rear. A lot of bullseye shooters, a lot of competition shooters like the Hackathorn. It's got a serrated rear and a orange dot in the front. And of course, Michael is running his Shujicon HDs, which have the U-notch rear, 2 tritium vials in the back that are blacked out, and then orange front dots. So,
I'm a huge fan of the U-notch.
Oh yeah, it just draws your eye.
Yeah, it just really does draw your eye.
Yeah. But anyways, guys, so first things first is you change out the sights, and another reason is for one-handed manipulations. If you watch some of us, you know, our shooting videos, we, you know, sometimes we're using one hand, we'll rack the slide off of any number of things, usually our belt, but sometimes the barrels we're shooting with, you know, you can rack it off whatever. But anyways, that's the first thing that I would suggest you do. Now, you can stop there. Your Glock, as far as we're concerned, is ready for business.
Yeah.
And actually, that's all my wife has done to hers. I changed out her sights.
Well, that's all this 23 has.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it has a set of sights on it, and that's it.
Now, of course, this 23 is, I probably would change some things on it, but one, it's kind of sentimental to me because it was my first handgun purchase. 2, this one's already, and I guess we can talk about that now, is grip work. This one is already sporting an RTF2 grip package. So it It's grippy.
Yeah,
It's super grippy.
RTF2, it leaves the skin on the gun, not the gun on the skin.
It'll make you bleed. No, not really. It's not that bad, guys.
Yeah,
But another thing that we do is grip working. Michael, this is my. Why don't you talk about, because he does a little more to his than I do to mine.
Okay, so when I set up a defensive handgun and I think about grip. Now, the thing is about a defensive handgun is I'm going to put a lot of rounds through it. It's not one of those guns that's going to go, I'm going to buy it, I'm going to shoot it every once in a while. Like I have a 1911 that I don't shoot. Probably the whole time me and you've been shooting, which is...
I've shot it twice.
Over a year and a half, at least, maybe 2 years.
And we shoot like 1 to 2 times a month.
We shoot a lot. I've only shot that gun like twice. Yeah, since then. That gun doesn't, it just kind of gets put in the gun room and that's it. When I set up a defensive handgun, I think about the fact that I'm going to shoot that gun a lot. Me and that gun are going to have a very close relationship. I need to be able to trust that gun, know that that gun's going to do what I need it to do if I ever have to do anything with it. If the time ever comes, I need to be able to rely on it. So I want it to be comfortable and I want it to be shootable. So for me, especially on compacts and subcompact guns, that means if it's got any kind of finger groove on it, it's got to go. Any kind of finger groove at all has got to go. I have sausage fingers, and a lot of times those finger grooves just don't quite fit me. They fit me good enough. I ran one with finger grooves for years and never had any problems. I can run Kyle's Glocks and never have any problems. But for me, it's just more comfortable when it doesn't have any finger grooves on it. The next thing I'm going to do, I do a full texture all the way around, a full stipple job all the way around. I've seen guys that will just do the outside and the back and the front, and they'll leave the inside slick because that touches their skin. Well, I wear an undershirt anyways when I'm carrying inside the waistband, so that doesn't really affect me. And you don't. And you never really had any...
roll with it.
Yeah, I mean...
carrying a gun at first is uncomfortable.
You just got to get used to it.
Yeah,
you got to get used to it.
And that's no different. So.
Yeah, I mean, I can without an undershirt. I've done it a bunch of times, but I usually wear an undershirt, so it doesn't really matter anyways. But I'm going to do a full stipple all the way around because when you get that two-handed grip, you're going to grip the entire gun. So in my mind, it's better to have that texture there. If you've ever ran a handgun when you had mud or water or sweaty hands, anything like that, a good stipple is really, it makes a huge difference in how well you can run that gun. Can you run it without all that? Yeah, sure you can, but it makes it easier, makes it better. We're just talking about things that make it better. I stipple the contact points up here for my thumb to index because it gives a little more grip for me to be able to push that gun down and hold it down with my thumb.
It's a good reference too.
It's a good reference point. Also, if you're needing help remembering to keep your freaking finger out of the trigger, a little stipple right there can give you a good tactile feel, and you can say, okay, I'm in a good spot.
And that's a common thing for new shooters to stick their finger.
Yeah, they always want to stick their freaking finger in there. It's like that's just amazing to them. But that gives you a good point of reference. If you can feel that, you're in a good spot. I also undercut the trigger guards.
That's super functional.
That really is super functional, and it's not. It's one of those things. 99.9% of the time when a guy's like Glocks are just not comfortable, it's that problem right there. If that trigger guard came from the factory undercut, there would be hardly anybody say, "Oh, I hate Glocks. I hate the way they feel in my hand." Because guys that say that it's too big, it's too fat, come on, man.
You got some baby paws.
You got some. Well, I mean, there's videos of like 9-year-old kids running Glock 19s. Yeah. I mean, you got some teeny tiny hands. But that undercut, because it gets rid of that Glock knuckle. If you shoot enough stock Glocks long enough, you'll develop this little. I actually have it on my finger, a little red spot, and if it's not undercut, it becomes like a callus. Like you'll get a callus right there because your finger is all up in that, and it's a weird angle, and it's just not comfortable.
Yeah, and the biggest thing for me on that undercut is it just aids in getting such a higher grip. I mean, there's some videos of us shooting, and there's probably some photos of us shooting in like the overhead picture where you're seeing it from here. If you know, I don't know about Michael, but I know on some of mine where I've watched like maybe even the slow motion stuff, I got my big meaty paw like all up in the all up in the top of the slide, and I mean it looks like when it comes back, it's gonna touch me, and it actually does a little bit. But I mean I'm not getting slide bite, but I'm able to get that high tang grip on it because of that undercut.
Yep.
And that, I mean, guys, that's recoil management 101.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is getting, achieving a low bore axis, and part of doing that is getting your...
Is getting higher on the gun.
Yeah. So.
Now, that brings me to probably my last thing that I do as far as the outside of the gun. I always take my Gen 4 grips because they come with the different back straps. I always take my Gen 4 back straps and I will cut them down and kind of make a grip force adapter out of them. Because I undercut them and I get so high up on the gun, by doing that, that ensures that I never get any kind of slide bite or anything like that. Now, I don't have to do that. I ran them for a long time without them, and I never really had any issue. But it was something I wanted to try out, and I kind of like it. I may switch back, but I've kind of enjoyed having them on there. It's just one of them things, I don't have to worry about. I just grab it and go.
And guys, grip force adapters aren't expensive.
Yeah, you can buy grip force adapters. I just didn't want to spend the money because I want to make sure that this was something that I enjoy, I liked before I just.
And you can just run the beaver tail grip.
And you can, but if it makes these Gen 4 grips, which you guys that talk about how their grips are so fat. It makes a Gen 4 grip the same size as a Gen 3 when you put the medium back strap on there.
Which is this.
So...
guys, I'm 5'7". I don't necessarily have, like, small hands, but come on.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's move on to the next thing. We'll talk about some internals. One thing that, we get a new Glock on the channel, Mike's going to polish them.
Yeah. Yeah, every Glock that I have... I'm pretty sure that one's done, but I know this one's done. I just said every Glock that I have, but I always take the internals and I polish them. You can see in there that that's really shiny, and there's tons of videos out there on how to do it. It's called the 25-cent trigger job. You just take a Dremel tool with a polishing wheel and some others and just polish it up. It makes the trigger smoother. It kind of gets some of that.
Tell them exactly what parts you're polishing.
I'm polishing there's a trigger bar down inside there that I polish. It's actually the connector is what it is. When you buy like a Ghost connector or something, it's actually the connector that's in there that comes from the factory. I polish it down. I polish this back part of the trigger bar. I polish this cross that's in here, and I polish the top of this little dingus here on this trigger bar because it presses the
dingus.
Dingus, yeah, it's a dingus. I don't know what else you gonna call it. I polish it too because it touches the plunger. I also polish the plunger. I polish the plunger for the safety on the inside up here, and you do that, and it takes some of that break in that you get.
Eventually.
You'll eventually get there if you shoot it a lot, but this just kind of eases that process. Doesn't make it any lighter, but it does make it smoother. It takes some of that grit out, and it just makes it a smoother trigger, and just overall, it makes it a better trigger.
And guys, another thing that, on the internals that I would do, I don't do it with my Gen 4s, but, and this is the only Gen 3 Glock I own, but if I, say, tomorrow I found a good deal on a used, Gen 3 17 or 26, I'd probably buy it, and I would probably put a 3.5-pound Ghost connector in it.
Yeah.
Yep. And that part is something that's been around for a while, and I have basically had it in this 23 most of the time I've had the gun, and it's been fine. It's functional. The trigger feels a little bit lighter. Mm-hmm. It's definitely crisper. And I mean, you can ask Michael. Like I shoot well with this gun, even though it's a 40 and it's a little snappier. And I think it's all about that trigger. I mean, you can hear loud and crisp that is. But that 3.5-pound connector, you're talking about like a $20 part, probably $18.
I don't even know if it's $20. It's cheap.
Yeah. But I'm not really about upgrading the internals of a gun because you're messing with the trigger and you could be messing with the reliability, honestly. But that is a drop-in part.
Yeah.
Changing out the connector.
If I was gonna do a aftermarket trigger, I really like the idea of the Overwatch precision trigger, because all the parts on the internals, the only thing that's not an OEM part is the trigger itself, just the trigger shoe. Everything else that comes with it is an OEM part. Yeah. So you're technically all you're doing is just changing the trigger shoe out, and it just gives you a flat trigger. And flat triggers are
easier to shoot.
They're easier to shoot.
It's physics.
They're not going to make you a better shooter, but they are easier to shoot.
Yeah, but and I do like the thought of a flat trigger. But if you're going to do that on one of your Glocks, you need to do it to all of them.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's going to change. It's going to change.
And that's why all 4 of mine are stock.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all 4 of them are stock.
So guys, why not? We had a viewer the other day that was asking me about sending his gun off to agency and doing a full agency Glock. $2,500 Glock, which is awesome. They're functional. But he asked me, he was like, do you think once I did all that, I'd want to carry it? And I said, God, I hope so.
Yeah.
Because, what, guys, our philosophy on this channel is like, we cut the bull. And, what is the point of doing all those things to your gun
if you're not going to use it?
If you're not going to use it. Or just having a gun in general that you're not going to use. We just don't have extra cash lying around where we can just be a gun collector. Maybe if I won the lottery, I'd probably have some guns just sitting that I never shot. Yep. Hell, I don't even know if I could do that, man. If I bought an agency Glock, that sucker, I would run it every day. Yeah. But, you don't have to do that is what we're telling you. And I think a lot of guys, I think it's common in the gun world, and you can ask instructors. I mean, Jaeger said this a few times, but people will get a gun and then they don't shoot it well, so they'll just keep putting stuff on it. And keep putting stuff on it. Oh, I got to make it better.
It needs this or it needs that. Yeah, it doesn't need anything.
If you can't shoot a stock Glock, then you just can't shoot.
You just need to learn how to shoot.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean you need to go spend a whole bunch of money on your gun or a bunch of money on ammo at the range even. Guys, y'all can become better shooters. We can become better shooters just by...
Right here in the house.
That's it. I watched a video last night. Active Self-Protection posted, and it said something absurd like aiming is useless. And there was an instructor come on there, and he said aiming is useless if you can't manipulate the trigger without moving the gun. So what he means is if you can't put your front sight on an object and squeeze without manipulating that gun this way, what's the point of aiming? Because you're not going to hit what you're looking at.
That's right. Because
you're going to move it. So anyways, guys, fundamentals. That's what makes you a better shooter, not all this stuff. Now, I guess some of this stuff is aesthetically pleasing for some. It's cool guy stuff, I guess. But this stuff is functional.
It is functional.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing on my gun that's for frills or thrills.
Well,
and
the thing about doing all this stipple work is it's all going to start looking like crap the longer you run it.
Oh yeah, I was the other night. I was in my room with a toothpick, just cleaning out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible. Ryan bought a sonic cleaner, and I may use that. That may be the only thing.
Well, but the stipple eventually will start wearing. Because the longer you run it, the more it wears. Yeah. I mean, you start looking at this 19 here. This 19 is maybe a year old, but it's had, I don't know how many rounds this thing's had through it. It's had quite a few.
Like 2,000-3,000.
I mean, it's had a lot of rounds through it, and you can tell. You can tell.
I mean, one place that I noticed that my stipple is gone is my index point. You know, I mean, it's still there, but it's not. It's smoother than it was. It's not as rough, and that's just because that's where my finger goes.
Yep.
You know, I don't always do the full on Jeff Blugman up here.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
you know,
it's just the way that it is.
Yeah, and the point is, guys, is that this video is going to be called functional, or is called functional Glock modifications, because this is functional stuff, guys.
Yep.
We kind of cut the crap on this channel. We kind of trim the fat.
Yep.
Probably trim a little fat on ourselves. But you know, we try to trim the fat for you guys so you get your money's worth, and that you do things that are, you know, dollar efficient, because we know y'all work hard for your money, because we do. So you know, not everybody's got $2,500 to throw down on the Glock. Maybe you've got $600, so you can go get a used one, and you know, get you a holster and a pair of night sights, and boom,
you're good to go. You really are. I guess if there was anything else I feel like I really wanted to do to this gun that I think would be functional, I think sending it off and getting some forward cock serrations, they're not necessary by any means, and they do look cool, but they are functional for press checks. I know some people don't like press checks, but they are functional for press checks. I don't put a gun on my hip in the morning without making sure there's a round in the chamber. Like, it doesn't cost you anything. I don't do it in training. I don't pull it out and press check it and then, you know. But in the mornings, before I get ready to leave for the day or put my gun on for the day, I'm going to press check it.
Yeah.
Those will help with that. And those also give you another area to be able to get some grip on something if you had to run that gun. And we're going to do a video talking about people getting into gunfights, and that's something that, if there's some forward cocking serrations there, that could help.
Yeah. And I think when that'll come, guys, for me personally, is I've already got some pretty good holster wear on this gun. I've got some wear right there on the barrel where it locks up, and I got some holster wear on this side, or maybe I just dinged it somewhere. But anyways, when this slide starts looking like the Battleborn slide, wear that people pay for, yeah, then just out of, you know, functionality of the gun and not wanting to just ruin my slide, when the finish wears off, I'll probably get the serrations done then, and then Cerakote it. And
something else for me personally, because I really think that there's some merit there, is milling it for an RMR.
Yeah.
I've never ran a handgun with an RMR, but I know how fast a red dot on a rifle is, and I think that there's some merit there.
There's some things to talk about on that.
I really do. I want to try it and see if it's for me.
Yeah. Well, anyways, guys, you know, that's all we got. But like I said, we wanted to give you a video for, you know, if you're just wanting to do, like, if you want a gun that's like combat ready. I think if you do these things, which I mean, we did all this ourselves.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Michael did the polishing and the undercutting and the stipple work.
You don't have to spend a ton of money either.
Yeah.
Buy a gun, buy a set of sights. I promise you, there's somebody stippling guns out of their garage. Now, you have to be careful. You need to look at their work before you let them do it. But I wanted to do it, and I didn't want to spend the money on it, so I said, crap on it.
Yeah, Michael did a good job. I mean, mine looks fantastic.
I've done quite a few now. And it's just, I may send one off eventually for stipple work, but probably not. I'll probably just keep doing them myself. So, you got anything else?
I'm going to keep asking you to do mine. Oh, man, that's all I got, dude. Yeah, go shoot, guys. Go dry fire. Train. Work on your mindset. You know, research. Don't stop learning.
No, never. Always a student. Guys, we appreciate y'all watching. You know what to do. Like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, you can put them in the comment section, or you can jump over to the Facebook page. We can always get into a more in-depth conversation there. We will also
leave links to our social media outlets in the description box below.
And our sponsors. Well, anyways, guys, we appreciate y'all watching. Y'all be safe.